Now, before we ship you down to Earth in your very special cart, we're going to be quite honest, and you'll listen if you're smart.
The Hoober-Bloob Highway is the special I by far had the most trouble writing about. Nothing to do with the quality, but because of what it contains, as it is easily the most unique of these specials to date, and possibly even the entire list. To start with, this was the first of these written entirely from the ground up, not based on the book or anything, and by the way, this will be true for the next few specials as well. But, more importantly, it's one of those stories that isn't concerned with having a definite narrative. Instead, it's more a slideshow of ideas and messages all centered around a certain theme. That theme being, well, life. Specifically, we follow the ambivalent dispatcher Mr. Hoober-Bloob as he's about to send a newborn child down to Earth. And, as is routine, make sure he's ready by showing him visions of the life that may be ahead of him and the world that lies beneath. Yeah, Hoober, that's going to prepare him and not scar him for life. Why don't you show him Twitter while you're at it?
That world is a vastly cruddy bloody bore.
But yeah, we start by having this kid get shown the kinds of environments he may be living in, from a palace to the freaking Arctic. But then his hometown gets selected on a wheel. So I guess Hooper was just doing this to hype it up? I don't get it. After this point is when it starts to get much more philosophical. It starts innocently enough by listing the responsibilities he'll be expected to take on, as well as how fast or slow life could move.
Watching the snails race by.
But then we get into all the confusing, trivial stuff he'll have to learn in school, how life as a human has both its upsides and downsides, what he'll want to be when he grows up, and of course, the countless questions he'll be expected to answer.
How do you feel about going to war?
All this is of course told through the classic Seuss filter, with made-up words, ridiculous but super creative visuals, the whole shebang. In concept, this sounds like the coolest thing ever. It's like his later book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, mixed with Pixar's Soul.
Oh, the things you have to know.
But unfortunately, because it has to stretch this idea into 24 minutes instead of a short and sweet picture book, it feels like it's dragging more often than not. It always spends a few minutes on each idea, leading to some clearly overstaying their welcome. It's definitely nice to look at, and the songs are fun to listen to, but after a while you kinda wanna move on and see something different, you know? I can understand the need to not lean too heavily on the philosophical angle. This was 1975 network TV after all, but it still could have used a couple more set pieces or ideas.
And when Tweedle Beetles battle with pebbles in a puddle, they call it a Tweedle Beetle Puddle Battle.
One thing this special isn't short on, however, is visual imagination. In particular, Hoober-Bloob is such a memorable Seuss design, with all that facial hair that somehow blends in perfectly with his chin. And it is complemented well with his operations taking place on a semi-futuristic looking area in space. There's such a calming vibe to the place, not just with how Hoober talks and the colors dominating the screen, but how it's so serene and distant from the rest of the world. The backdrops and layouts that come up during the many montages constantly give us something unique to look at as well. And of course, given the time period, we mustn't forget the multiple abstract sequences that come up. These don't exactly stick in your head, but they serve their job well and it keeps the special visually engaging. You can tell the design and layout team must have had a ton of fun putting this together, even if it ends up overshadowing the actual substance at times. Though maybe that's ultimately for the better, as fun as this concept sounds, this is not as intricately thought out as something like the Lorax or even the Cat in the Hat. Like, what the heck is stuff like this meant to imply?
If you have the slightest doubt and you don't want to go, just tell us so, and your trip will be cancelled out.
So, as mixed as I am on the Hoober-Bloob Highway, I think it stands out more than enough to warrant its place in the lineup. Just seeing Dr. Seuss cover this kind of stuff, I think is in and of itself pretty fascinating, even if he ended up giving it another go that fared much better years later. Not everyone's going to get into it, but if what I've described seems to pique your interest even a bit, you'll get your time's worth.
Have a